Tosi Baharani. We offer our most respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. Jai. Panchakalpa Taruyascha, Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha, Patitam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Vaishnav Vrindavi Jai. All right. Just leave it. I have it set properly. All right, everyone disappeared. Okay. Everyone's run away. Too bad. Jaya Rad Homad Hova Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopi Janamalabha Girivado Dagote Gopi Janamalabha Girivado Dagote Yasodanandana Rajajanuranjana Yasodanandana Rajajanuranjana Yamuna Tera Banachadi Tera Panachati Jaya Radhu Madhuva Kundavihati Jaya Radha Madhuva Kundavihati Gopi Dhanavanabha Irivanabhagati Gopi Dhanavanabha Irivanabhagati Yasunanandana Brajajana Vrandana Sudanandalabraja Jalaranjana Jamunati Ramanachanti Yamunati Ramanachanti Jaya Radhamadhuva Kunyabikhanti Jaya Radhamadhuva Kunyabikhanti Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravatikacharya also Tada Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Sabaya Jagannath Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shila Vidas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Shaima Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Ki Jai Maturidam Ki Jai Jagadavasami Ki Jai Mudbai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaura Premananda Haribol. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Shadvapad Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Putale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Samani Chinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschacha Deja Tarne Somaganat Timidanda Shagadanjana Shalakayat Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sigadave Namaha. Is anybody watching there? A few people? One? A few people, two people. Yeah. You put it on the New Goloka group. I put it on my personal group. Anyway, so today, friends, we are celebrating what's called Bij Mashtami. Means the 8th day of Bhishma. Some people say it is the day that Bhishma went back to home, back to Godhead, because it's the specific time after the when the sun starts to go to the north, which is actually December 23rd. That's after the Battle of Kurukshetra was over. Anyway, so Bhishma goes back to Godhead, or Bhishma was born, but in any case, it's a day to commemorate and talk about grandfather Bhishma. So the story goes as follows. Many, many years ago, once upon a time, there were 8 Vasus. They're very powerful persons in the heavenly planets. And the head of the Vasus was named Dyau, D-Y-A-U. And this Dyau, he had a wife. I don't know his wife's name. So his wife had a friend who was an earthling. You know what an earthling is? You don't know what that means. It means someone who lives on earth. And the problem with being an earthling, you get old, which I've experienced. And so, just like recently, I've been consulting with my German doctor, how can I avoid getting old? And he prescribed metformin. So anyway, but in this particular case, they had something better than metformin. Anyone's heard of metformin before? No. Anyway, something better, and that something better
was the milk from the Kamadhenu cow, so in the heavenly planets. So there was a special Kamadhenu cow that was held by Vashishta Muni. And you may remember the story of Vashishta Muni and Visvamrita. That's a whole other story. So, therefore, Jiao's wife said to Jiao, "You have to steal the cow so my friend can have this cow." So Vashishta got pretty angry when this happened, and he cursed the 8 Vasus because they participated in this theft. He cursed them to come down to Earth planet, is where we are, become Earthlings. Now that's considered a big curse. Of course, in Kali Yuga, it's considered a great benediction because simply by chanting Hare Krishna, go back to God, and the demigods are planning to come down on this Earth planet so they can take part in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement. Just like Ishvara, were you a demigod before? Of course, your mother always thinks like that. My children are demigods. So anyway, they were cursed, and they went to Vashishta and begged for forgiveness. And Vashishta Muni said, "Okay, we'll make a little concession for you, that the 7 of you," and remember there's 8, 7 of you will not have to live for a long time. You can just have very short birth, after pregnancy, of course, and then come back to the heavenly planets. But Jiao is going to have to endure the time span of 8 lifetimes on this earth. 8 lifetimes on earth. So many of us, we want to live longer. 8 lifetimes. Anyway. So, anyway, that was a curse. It's interesting, that was a curse. So, anyway, so in the meantime, roughly the same time, there was a great king. His name was Mahabish. And he was in heaven watching the Bharatanatyam performance, like we have here. And during that Bharatanatyam performance, there was another person watching the Bharatanatyam, and that was Ganga Devi, and there was some wind that blew up her skirt or whatever they wear there. And Mahabish stared at her. Lusty. Terrible. And so Lord Brahma saw this, and he said, "Therefore, because you're so lusty, you have to come down to this Earth planet." And Ganga Devi, she sort of liked the attention. So, therefore, it was agreed that Ganga Devi would go down and actually become married to this Mahabish. So, anyway. So, as Ganga Devi was planning this, going down to the Earth planet and everything, she happens to run into the Vasus. Remember the 8 Vasus? One of which is going to have a long lifetime. And what happens is they say, "We're looking for a mother. We don't want any ordinary, just like, person. This ordinary lady. Yuck. We want to have a special mother. Can you be our mother? And then you should kill us as soon as we're born." And she agrees. Okay. So then what happens is Mahabish takes birth as this king named Shantanu. And Shantanu, he also has a problem with lust, like Mahabish did, So he's hunting one day, and he's going by the bank of the Ganges, and he sees Ganga Devi. He goes, "Wow." Immediately, "Will you marry me?" I mean, I'm not going to criticize Shantanu, but it's not so intelligent. Should at least do the astrology first. So, at least call our friend here to do the astrology. So, therefore, she says yes, only on the condition that you will never talk back, never disagree with me. And if you disagree with me, I'm gone. So, being perfectly enamored, he thought, how are we going to disagree with such a beautiful girl? That's called illusion. Just like when Mohini Murti appeared before the demons, and she said, I will distribute the nectar. And they thought, we trust you. And she said, you can trust me. And they said, oh, isn't she cute? We trust her. That's illusion. People fall into illusion. You understand? Pumsa striya, is my sannyas class. Mituni bhav metam tayor redia granti aho, ato grih, etc. Sutapta vidnara. Janashimoho yam aham ameti. I'm not going to translate it. So anyway, so what happens is they get married, and as you can guess, she keeps dumping the kids in the Ganges River. And Shantanu just can't say anything. He's crying. He's really attached to his kids. Finally, she goes to kill the 8th kid, and Shantanu can't stand it anymore. He says, stop. And she says, all right. Stop? Is that what you're thinking? I'm out of here, and I'm taking the kid with me. So she took the child with her, and that child was known later on as Bhishma, right, or Devavrata. And Bhishma became trained up in politics by Brahaspati, in the Vedas by Vasishtha Muni, and fighting by his martial arts guru, Parashuram. So what happened is that once upon a time, Shantanu was by the Ganges again. Yes, it's dangerous. He should always have someone accompanying him. And he saw this beautiful girl who was rowing a boat across the Ganges. And she was ostensibly a daughter of a fisherman, but actually she was the daughter of the heavenly king, of the earthly king Vasu, but that's another story we don't have time to tell. And because she is associated with the fishermen, she originally it smelled bad, but after she had given birth to Vyasadeva from Parashara Muni, she actually had a good smell after that. So she was the mother of Vyasadeva. I'm not going to tell that whole story, because this is a story about Bhishma. So Shantanu just says, again, will you marry me? You know, no brains. Sorry. Anyway, it's a pastime. And she says, my father has to give a condition. And he goes to the father, who's a fisherman, Matsuraj, that means kingfish. So he goes to the fisherman, and the fisherman says, no, unless her son can become the next king. But Shantanu has a problem. He's made a promise to Bhishma that he can become the next king, because Bhishma has been returned by Gangadevi previous to this. And so then it's a problem. It's a problem. So he goes into a state, Shantanu goes into a state of deep, deep, deep depression. He's crying 24 hours a day. Whew, can you imagine that? How this attachment just makes one's mind like crazy. Nunam pramata kurute vikarma yadindriya pritiya apranoti. He's preaching to our brahmachari here. Hopefully he'll remain. So anyway, nunam prama, one becomes crazy. Pramada means crazy. Still more crazy. Nunam pramada. Kurute vikarmat, and performs even vikarmic activities. Yadindriya pritya apranoti, because he considers sense gratification so important. Like, look at this pretty girl. So Shantanu, he's attached, gets into it, because when you don't get what you want, you get depressed and angry. Jayato Vishal, Pumsam Sango Station Pajayate, Sangat Sanjayate, Kama Kama Krota Pajayate. Get really angry. So, but in this case, he's depressed. And no psychiatrist around to help him. So Bhishma sees this. Oh, just in the middle of an ecstatic story. But fortunately, you weren't here when I started talking about renunciation. I won't. So anyway, now I'll be kinder and gentler to those who are attached. I'm a sannyasi, Maharani. So anyway, so what happened? When there's no people here, I get more relaxed. I know. So anyway, so there was. So Bhishma saw his father was extremely depressed. So what he did is he went to this fisherman and he said, he found out through this father's secretary, and he said, I want my father to marry Satyavati. He was so dedicated. And the fisherman said, well, guess what? Her son has to become the next king. And Bhishma said, that's right, I vow not to become the king. I'll just serve the king no matter what. And then the fisherman said, well, your son may decide to fight with Satyavati's son. And Bhishma says, there's not going to be a son. I will never be married. And that's called Akhanda Brahmachari. Kijai. So Akhanda Brahmachari, or Naishtiki Brahmachari. So, oh my God, this is considered to be a very unusual vow for a Kshatriya, because Kshatriyas generally need to be married, because someone needs to keep them enthusiastic. And that's, it's necessary. If someone's a Kshatriya, it's basically necessary, because it keeps you in line. So anyway, so then what happened after that? Shantanu was not so happy that his son had done this, but he was pleased that his son was loyal like that, just thinking of his pleasure. So he blessed his son not to die unless he wanted to die. And Bhishma, in return, he vowed to see his father and whoever was the king. So whoever became the next king, as we know, we have Dhritarashtra, like that, then Bhishma actually saw his father and could never be disobedient to the king. In fact, he vowed that too. So Shantanu gets married to his dearly beloved Satyavati. And they have 2 kids, Vichitravirya and Chitrangada. And Chitrangada is killed. He's having a fight with a Gandharva, who basically has the same name, who later on got the name Chitraratha when Arjuna actually burnt his chariot. So Vichitravirya needed to get married so the dynasty could be carried out. That means the son was still alive. So Bhishma thinks, for some reason or other, he wasn't strong enough to do his own conquering. So Bhishma goes out and he tries to get some girls for him. And these girls are the daughters, arranged marriage. And these girls are the daughter of the king of Kashi. And there's 3 girls, Amba, Ambalika, and Ambika. That means Amba, and very little Amba. Anyway, so he kidnaps them. Right in the middle of their Swayamvara, Bhishma just goes out and says, I'm taking these girls. And they go, no. Oh my God. And Bhishma pulls out his bow and arrows, doesn't shoot anybody, and just says, look, I'm more powerful than the rest of you, and he actually is. So then there's a problem, because he brings the three girls back, but one of the, Amba, the oldest, is very attached to Shalvaraj. And she's already given her heart. Bhishma respects that. He said, all right, you've given your heart, go back home to Shalva. And Shalva being a Kshatriya, oh my God, I'm not taking charity. You've already been taken away by another man. Get out of here. Isn't it? So cruel. Even though he was telling her before, I'm madly in love with you. You know, just amazing cruelty here. And so Amba's like fit to be tied. She goes back to Bhishma and says, therefore, you have to marry me since you kidnapped me. And he says, I took a vow of Akanda Brahmachari. I can't get married. And she gets really upset. And so she thinks, I'm going to force him to marry me. So Amba goes to her uncle, who is a friend of Bhishma's martial arts guru, Parashuram, and says to Parashuram, you got to force your disciple to marry me. So Parashuram calls for Bhishma, I have something to say to you. You get married, or you fight with me. So for 23 days, there's a fight between Bhishma and Parashuram. And basically it's a draw. Bhishma becomes more powerful. Anyway, so it stopped at a certain point. Amba is fried to a crisp at this point. God, hell hath no fury, like a woman scorned. Phew. I got to be really careful. Okay, forgive me for all my offenses. So, anyway, so she's really angry. I'm going to kill him no matter what. So she performs all these different penances to Lord Shiva, and she gets to be the benediction that she's going to be reborn and the cause of death for Bhishma. And this is a very interesting story that's told in the Mahabharata. And she is born as the daughter of Drupad, who is known as Shikandini or something like that. But Drupad is a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva has told him, as a boy. And so he has so much faith in Lord Shiva that he thinks this girl is a boy. That's faith. And so Drupada arranges this boy, who he thinks is a boy, to get married to a girl who's another princess from another kingdom. Now, right after the marriage, the king, who is the father of the prince who married the princess, who married this other girl, finds out, oh my God, two girls. Now, this is not the modern age. This is a previous age where girls just didn't get married to each other. Not politically correct story. So then he declares war because you've offended my daughter in this particular way. Shikandini runs away because she considers herself to be the cause of all this disturbance. And so she gets in touch with this yaksha named Stunakarna. Stunakarna becomes very compassionate. He says, I'll give you my masculinity in exchange for your femininity. And so Stunakarna becomes Stunakarnini, whatever the name is, and she becomes Shikandi. And so what happens is the yaksha, he's expecting his masculinity back, but what happens in the meantime is that Kuvera comes, who is the head of the yakshas, to visit this Stunavara, and he discovers that Stunavara has now become a woman, and he says, this is stupid. and he curses him to remain a woman as long as Shikandi is alive. So anyway, fast forward. We're not going to tell the whole Mahabharata story. To the battle of Kurukshetra. Bhishma is the commander-in-chief of the battle of Kurukshetra in the beginning, the first part of the battle of Kurukshetra. And this is because he knows better. He knows that he shouldn't be fighting on the side of demons, Duryodhana and company, but because he has vowed to see his father in whoever is the king or emperor, he's duty-bound to do it. He sticks to his promises. That's what he's known for, someone who sticks to his promises. Now, he understands finally at the very end, after he's killed, as he's explaining to Yudhisthira Maharaj, that promises can be broken if the result of keeping your promise is bad. That's called consequentialism. And he gives the example when he's lying on the bed of arrows. He says, once upon a time, what's that? He says, once upon a time, there were some dacoits running after a family. Somehow they wanted to kill the family, and the family took shelter in the ashram of a sage. Then what happened is the dacoits went to the sage and said, have you seen this family? And the sage said, I cannot tell a lie. They're in my ashram. And they were killed. So he understood that keeping your promise is good, but if it's going to have really bad effects, then maybe you should break your promise at that particular point. So, he had promised to remain loyal to the king. He could have broken his promise. He could have. But anyway, it was Krishna's pastime. So he's in the battle of Kurukshetra, fighting on the wrong side, and he doesn't really fight seriously with Arjuna because he loves Arjuna. They're his, grandchildren. He loves them like anything, 5 Pandavas. So Duryodhana taunts him. Bhishma, because he is a Kshatriya too. He says, I have 5 golden arrows, and I'm going to kill the Pandavas tomorrow. And he imbues these golden arrows with his martial arts potency, spiritual, or heavenly potency. Duryodhana says, all right, I'm going to keep them in my place so they'll be safe. But then, Krishna, who always intercedes at the right moment, says to Arjuna, let's go and visit Duryodhana. And of course, they could visit during the evening. In the beginning of the battle of Kurukshetra, there was following the rules and regulations. No fighting at night. You can actually go and visit the enemy and talk to them, and there's no problem, no threat. So Krishna says to Arjuna, let's go visit Duryodhana and ask for a boon. And Duryodhana owed a boon to Arjuna because Arjuna saved Duryodhana when Duryodhana was captured by the Gandharvas earlier in the Mahabharata. So, but still, if a Kshatriya is asked for something, he'll give it. And of course, the Kshatriya shouldn't ask people for something. This is a violation also of Kshatriya Dharma. Kshatriya is not supposed to beg. So, Arjuna goes and says, can you give me a boon? And Duryodhana says, yeah, anything you want. You can have the kingdom back if you want. And he knows Arjuna's not going to ask for the kingdom back because that would be extremely embarrassing. It'd be like you lose your reputation. It's worse than dying for a Kshatriya. For a Brahmin, of course, a Brahmin doesn't want a kingdom. But a Brahmin doesn't care reputation, unless it's for his preaching, of course. But a Brahmin, he said, all right, give me the kingdom back. I guess a Vaishya would definitely ask for the kingdom back. Said, yeah, that's a good deal. Give me, even though Vaishya's not supposed to beg, he would say, yeah, sure. Who cares? Shudra would ask for any damn thing. So, He doesn't worry about anything. It's like, yeah, well, yeah, bring it on. So anyway, so Arjuna asks Duryodhana for the 5 arrows. And Duryodhana tells Bhishma, make 5 more. Bhishma says, I can't because I gave all my potency to the last 5. But I will vow to kill Arjuna the next day unless Krishna will break his promise. So he has this determination, I'm going to see Krishna break his promise. Here's the chivalrous relationship with Krishna. And so Krishna breaks his promise. And he said, because Krishna's promise was, I'm not going to fight. You know, there was this whole bargain. One side can have Krishna's army, the other side can have Krishna. And if you get Krishna, he's not going to do anything except for drive a chariot, you know, just be a sarati. So, but Krishna breaks his promise, grabs the chariot wheel and rushes at Bhishma, and Krishna is filled with these arrows and manifesting blood, even though Ashnavi Ram, he doesn't have, obviously, veins or anything like that. But this is like a chivalrous relationship, and it's described, he's experiencing that like a lover's bite. You know, just like a wonderful relationship. And Bhishma at the end is wanting to remember this particular occasion. In fact, the Mahabharata describes 2 instances where Krishna broke his promise. One was when Arjuna was not fighting seriously with Bhishma. That's another time when Krishna rushed at Bhishma. And then at this particular instance, when Bhishma was trying to kill Arjuna. So finally, Bhishma was defeated by Arjuna. When Arjuna put this Shikhandi, who was previously Shikhandini, on the chariot where he was riding, in front of him. You know, it's like a human shield. And grandfather Bhishma, you know, this is actually important too. In those days, women weren't on the battlefield fighting. Sometimes they would drive a chariot. At least the Kshatriyas wouldn't fire an arrow at a woman. They were respected. Actually, there's one country. What is it? What is an ethnic group in the north of Iran where 80% of the fighters are women? What's that name of it? It's an ethnic group. Starts with a K. It escapes me. I know, but this is the Vedic times. All right. We'll give you a gun. You can borrow it from Shri Arjuna. So anyway, grandfather Bhishma would not attack a woman. I mean, that was his vow. Or anyone who previously was a woman. So he was just kept firing his arrows in this direction, that direction, but not at Arjuna. Krishna said, shoot him. And Arjuna said, but he's my grandfather. And Krishna said, shoot him. Krishna just encourages this. And it reminds me also when Krishna was encouraging him to fight with Karna. And Karna was on the ground picking up his chariot. Chariot wheel was stuck in the mud because Karna would have been cursed like that. And Krishna said, shoot him, cut off his head, don't you remember? Anyway, so finally Arjuna fills him with arrows. And so he's knocked to the ground, and Arjuna produces the Ganges from the ground. He shoots his arrow into the ground, and the Ganges comes out. Because Bhishma is actually thirsty, and Arjuna actually produces, or doesn't produce, but with his arrows he makes a pillow for grandfather Bhishma. And so grandfather Bhishma is lying there, and this is the beginning of the Battle of Kurukshetra, too. Through the whole Battle of Kurukshetra, he's lying there on the battlefield. Of course, he's surrounded by guards, too. And every day the Pandavas would come to him and report what's happening. And After the Battle of Kurukshetra, he gives very wonderful instructions to Yudhishthira and the Pandavas. And I'm going to read some of those instructions right now. These are, first of all, he gives instructions to all human beings. One, not to become angry. Two, not to lie, except for extraordinary circumstances, which you bet. Four, to equally distribute wealth, not to hoard wealth. To forgive, to beget children only by one's legitimate wife, to be pure in mind and hygienic in body, not to be inimical towards anyone, to be simple, to support servants and subordinates. Now, here he gives some instruction how to achieve these qualities. It's a very interesting section of the Mahabharata. To get freedom from anger, one should learn how to forgive. That's hard sometimes, isn't it? To forgive someone who has done something. Of course, my empathic communications, I sort of teach that, to understand that everybody's acting to fulfill certain needs. Two, to be free from unlawful desires, one should not make plans. Making plans means to satisfy your desires. We can make plans to build a temple. We can make plans to serve Krishna. I mean, he who fails to plan, plans to fail. So for Krishna, we make plans, but not for, today I want to eat this, enjoy this. Let me plan this next week. Let me plan my menus for every day. We can plan Krishna's menus for every day. By spiritual culture, one is able to conquer sleep. Everyone should hear that. By tolerance, only can one conquer desires and avarice. Tolerance. Tam satiksha bhavatam. Here's one of my favorites. Disturbances from various diseases can be avoided by regulated diets. You can attend my Stop Killing the Devotees seminar. See, I'm just very much in line with Grandfather Bhishma here. By self-control, one can become free from false hopes. Hope against hope. Hope against hope, of course, for Krishna consciousness, that's not a false hope. But false hope is enjoyment in this world. Money can be saved by avoiding undesirable association. That's very interesting. By practice of yoga, one can control hunger. Next one is worldliness can be avoided by culturing the knowledge of impermanence. That's why we speak many times about how things are very temporary. The whole material world is just always changing, endlessly mutable, as Srila Prabhupada stated. It's always changing. You can't step in the same river twice. You don't know whether we're going to be here tomorrow. It's important to talk about these things, to talk about the impermanent nature of this world. Dizziness can be conquered by rising up. False arguments can be conquered by factual ascertainment. Here's a good one. Talkativeness can be avoided by gravity and silence. By prowess, one can avoid fearfulness. And finally, perfect knowledge can be obtained by self-cultivation. In other words, cultivating knowledge by reading Srila Prabhupada's books and also being introspective, applying that knowledge. Jnana vijnana sahitam. Yadgatva mokshase shubha. Okay? I had a lot more stuff about Grandfather Bhishma, my notes, but Grandfather Bhishma.
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvandam Maravindadalayatakam Varhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandar Agom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalem Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Panti Kayanti Giram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Okay, all right. Vimavarishesha Aloka Provesha Nija Chade Utajiva Vimavarishesha Aloka Provesha Nija Chade Utajiva Mulo Hare Hare Mukunda Morare Ramakrishna Riva Hare Hare Nasringamamanak Shimana Suranak Prajananana Chamava Nasringamamana Shimana Suranak Prajananana Chama Putana Gatana Koita Bashatana Jayana Saratina Putana Gatana Koita Bashatana Jayana Saratina Yasoda Dula Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandara Dula Govinda Gopala Vrindavana Purandara Upiya Jana Radhika Ramana Bhuvana Sunarabara Gopi Priya Jana Radhika Ramana Bhuvana Sundarabara Ravana Thakura Makana Tatskura Gopi Jana Vasari Ravana Thakura Makana Tatskura Gopi Jana Vasari Prachera Rakalo Gopavinda Polo Chitare Vamsi Dare Prachera Rakalo Gopavinda Polo Chitare Vamsi Dare Yogendra Vandana Sri Nandanandana Rajajana Bayore Navina Nirada Rupa Manohara Mohara Vamsi Bihare Yasoda Nandana Kamsani Sulana Nikunyara Savila Sege Yasoda Nandana Yara Savila Se Kadamakanana Rasaparayana Vrindavi Pina Devase Kadamakanana Saparayana Davi Pina Devase Ananda Vardhana Premani Kedana Ulakshara Yojakagama Dana Premani Kedana Ulakshara Yojakagama Gagana Chita Vinodana Samastakuna Gana Dhamma Gopagana Gana Chita Vinodana Samastakuna Gana Dhamma Jamuna Jivana Kele Purayana Manasa Chandra Dakora Namachula Rasa Gaur Krishna Jitsa Kovachana Manamora Namachula Rasa Gaur Krishna Yasa Rakavachana Manamora Vipavatri Shesha Galoka Pravesha Nijadale Utajeva Lahu Hare Hare Mukunda Murare Rama Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Guru Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, God. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Goloka Nana Radha Goloka Nana Dharate. Jaya Radha Goloka Nana Radha Goloka Nana Dharate. Jaya Radhe, Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe. Shri Radhe. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pad. Also tell us Shri Shima is the right grace of our Janana. Those are the words. ISKCON found in the chariots. Shulpad. Anandagoti Vaishnav Vrind Acharya Shridas Thakur Kijay. Friends say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadwaita Gadadha Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Sai Makunda Radha Krishna Giri Govardhan Vrindavanam Kijay Churam Swami Mandala Siddhi Kijay Lord Premananda all glories is the Lord. come to an end, and the light of dawn is entering. O Jiva soul, arise and give up your sleep. Chant the holy names of Lord Hari, giver of liberation, enemy of demon Mora, supreme enjoyer, all attractive, and Hayagriva, the horse-headed incarnation. Singha, half man, half lion incarnation, Vamana, dwarf, Brahman incarnation, killer of demon, Madhu, beloved son of Braja's ruler, beautifully dark complexioned slayer, a witch, Putana, destroyer of demon Kaitaba, and victorious son of Dasarath, Lord Krishna. Darling of Yashoda, giver of pleasure to cows, land, and spiritual senses, cow protector, Lord of Vrindavan, the gopis' beloved, lover of Radhika, and most beautiful in all the worlds. Cause of demon Ravana's demise as Lord Ram. Butter thief, robber of the gopi girls, clothes, young herdsmen of Braja, protector of the other coward boys, thief of hearts, and flute charmer. Worshipped by the best of the yogis, Nanda's joy, remover of all fears from the people of Braj, colored with a fresh rain cloud, colored like a fresh rain cloud, enchanting in form and charming while wandering and playing a flute. Yashoda's joy, vanquisher of demon, King Kansa, enjoyer of the rasa dance, among the forest groves, and especially under the kadamba trees, and resident of the woods of Brinda. Increasing the ecstasy of the devotees, reservoir of all love, the transcendental Cupid, who uses his flowered arrows to increase the loving desires of the gopis, the pleasure of the hearts of all coward men, women and men, and the abode of all wonderful qualities. The life of the Jamuna River, always absorbed in amorous pastimes, and the moon of the mind, which is like moonlight feeding Chakora bird. Heed my words, O mind. These holy names are full of nectarian mellows. Therefore, sing the glories of Krishna. Okay, so Cheto Darpanam Arjanam Bhava Mahad Bhagni Nivrapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vijavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Pranamritas Vadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Now